Hello everybody, War Wizard here again, back with another video. Before I start, I just want to say I really appreciate you guys showing me some love on my last video. Easiest characters to play in Mortal Kombat 1. Really means a lot, especially to a smaller content creator. It's really cool that you guys, gave your opinions and let me know how you guys feel about that video. I am currently learning how to edit so I can bring you guys higher quality content. I'm going to be uploading more often. But today's video, I want to go over what, in my opinion, is the top 5 hardest characters to use in Mortal Kombat 1. This is probably going to be a controversial list because a lot of people, they associate with top tier as brain dead. But that's not true. A lot of the top tiers in this game are actually kind of hard to use. Which brings me to my number 1. Geras. I don't think anyone will really argue about this one. I don't know how to use Geras, I'm not going to lie. I know Motaro is like his best cameo. But why is he so hard, you ask? And I will tell you. So he basically has a move. I don't even know how to do it, guys. I'm sorry. Where is the So you have to learn those time stop combos, right? When they freeze in time, you have to learn exactly what will do the most damage and what will pop them up in the right time so you continue the combo. He also has a move that's kind of like Kenshi, where he calls in a sand clone. Is it this? Okay, so it is this. So he brings up that sand clone that can also do attacks, right? So you have to learn all of those moves for that. For Geras' clone. You have to manage the time clock. That. You have to do all these things with Geras. His optimal combos are probably some of the hardest in the game that I've seen people do. I haven't run into really good Geras players because I do know that he's somewhat easy to like pick up, but if you really want to learn Geras, you have to learn how to use his optimals. The sand clone, the stopping the time, managing the time clocks, these things, and all that. It takes a lot more effort than most of the other characters in this game. There's a reason why you don't see that many, and it's not because he's low tier, because he's not. It's because he's so hard to use. At a high level, like you can get away with, the basic stuff that you probably run into Combat League all the time. This mid. Where is it? Didn't I just do it a second ago? Damn, I already can't remember. Oh yeah, this grab mixed with the other one. You can get away with it. But to really learn Geras, it's going to take a lot more time and effort. I think I've only run into one Geras player in all of Combat League that actually knew how to use his sand clone combos and stuff like that. The rest of the Gerases that I ever run into are pretty run of the mill. You know, they don't really know how to optimize Geras. So that's why he's number one on my list. I mean, even in the pros, you know, there's not very many of them. I mean, partly because he isn't, you know, tippy top tier. He is very good, but also because he's just harder to learn. You're gonna find a lot. Let's say Geras was as good as Havoc, you would probably still see Havoc more often because he's way easier to play than Geras. So Geras is my number one. My number two, and this is where it's probably going to get controversial because I know a lot of people say he's brain dead, blah blah blah. Top tier does not mean brain dead. Low tier, same thing, does not mean, you know, hard to play. Top tier does not mean he's not hard to play. So my number two is Kenshi. So, with Kenshi, the thing that makes him number two on my list is strictly the Sento stance. I mean, you have to remember all of those moves, which ones launch him up. Again, guys, I don't even play Kenshi. I don't even know how to... I mean, look at that. I can't even keep him up with me, you know. You see top level Kenshi players and they have those combos down to a T, and you know they're hard to do. People try to say, oh, he's brain dead. You just call in Sento. You have to learn how to use Sento, though. Like, he might be brain dead once you get him, like, you know, his muscle memory down. Like, you can do his combos and Sento stance, you know, fine, but it takes time to learn that. That's why 90% of the Kenshis that you run into on Combat League are trash. They're terrible. They do basic things, basic Sento shit. Like, they never use it correctly. I think my whole entire time playing Mortal Kombat, I think I've run into like 2, maybe 3 actual good Kenshi players that know how to use Sento. Because not only do you have to use Sento, so you can't use your cameo when Sento's out. So you have to get used to, you know, not doing certain combos with your cameo character because Sento's out. You have to have Sento management. You have to have cameo management. It's just a bunch of stuff you got to learn. Anyone who says that he's not hard to learn, especially the Sento stance, is full of themselves. They hate Kenshi so much because he's top tier, and he's been top tier pretty much the whole time. Even though, let's be honest, we don't see a lot of pro players use him. I think that's a combination of him being hard to use, but at the same time, he's not as good as people think. I do think he's like top 5 or 6, but he's definitely not top 3. If he was top 3, we'd see him a lot more often. But people, especially casuals, you know, they don't know how to deal with mix-up like that. Even pro players struggle with Sento mix. So everyone's just going to hate on him and say, oh, he's brain dead. He calls in Sento and does this. Yeah, but you have to learn how to use him. Especially use him properly. So he's number 2 on my list. Number 3 on my list is I'm thinking about it now. I'm gonna go with Shang Tsung. Shang Tsung's 3rd on my list. Because I see a lot of people use Shujinko with him also. So you're putting one of the hardest characters to learn in the game on top of the hardest cameo to use in the game. With Shang Tsung, I think he's hard to use because not only is he bottom tier, he's like bottom tier. He's been bottom tier since the game came out. The only reason people have a hard time against him is because you rarely ever see him. But you have to learn his young form and his old form. They all have completely different special moves, and even if they share the same inputs, they're different moves. Like this has the skull, but I think his old form. How do I even change? Is this, and you have to get the distance. Okay. How do you do very far? But look at all these moves just for young form, and then all these moves for old form. Like that's a lot to learn, and his optimals are probably some of the hardest optimals to do in the game. Let's see here. There's close. So far ground skull is you have to do 3 inputs. So we're watching people do. I'm not going to be able to do it. There's no way. You know, do these optimal combos, having to know the difference between young, old, far, close. He's definitely a difficult character to master, 100%. That not only him being bottom tier is the reason why we barely see him, but also the fact that he's hard to learn. His combos, like that combo that Ninja Killer came up with, is probably ridiculously hard. I bet you majority of Shang Tsung players aren't pulling that off. I would bet $100 on it. That a very high percentage of Shang Tsung players aren't doing the craziest optimals. And then, you know, so many Shijinko players, or Shang Tsung players are using Shijinko cameo as well. So, yeah, he's just a big brain character, in my opinion. You rarely ever see him. And when you do, they're usually not that good. But when you do see him, there's a good amount. I've run into a good amount of Shang Tsung players that knew the optimals and stuff like that and were really good at converting the ground skulls and stuff. But you've seen his move list. It's a lot. It's a lot to manage. So he is 3 on my list. Now. Oh my gosh, I just exited all the way out, didn't I? What am I doing? 4th on my list is Ermac. Now, I know a lot of people are going to be stupid about it. Because again, people will say, oh, you land anything into, what's her name? Janet Cage and blah, blah, blah. To be a very good Ermac player, you have to learn his cancels. I can't even remember it. Yeah, these. Why am I jumping? Dude, PS5 controllers, I swear. But anyway, that move right there, you have to get good at learning his cancels. And, you know, you watch high-level Ermac players, their cancels are so dead on, they're comboing to everything. And I think he has a couple moves that you can cancel. He has some basic moves that you can cancel as well. I know he has some, like, but yeah, you have to get his cancels dead on to be a top tier Ermac player. Even the pros say, you know, that his cancels are kind of tricky to learn at first. But yeah, if you want to be a really good Ermac player, which I rarely ever run into a really good Ermac player, you have to get his cancels down. You have to. And not half-ass cancels like I'm doing, you know. Clearly, I'm not an Ermac player. Almost every Ermac I've ever faced, you know, they just do generic, try to do generic 50-50s and a bunch of unsafe stuff because they don't know how to do the cancels. you have to take the time to learn how to do the cancels if you want to be a truly good Ermac player. Like, even the pros say that if you play Ermac and you don't know how to do the cancels, you know, you're basically always going to be a casual. Like, you're never going to go up to that level. Because to use Ermac at his full potential, you have to learn the cancels, and they're pretty hard. The timing is pretty tricky. Now, I know this last one is going to get a bunch of people riled up, probably. My 5th pick is Homelander. I know there's going to be a lot of people saying, oh, you're crazy, you don't know what you're talking about. I don't even know who Homelander goes good with. I'm just going to pick somebody. Again, I don't really play Homelander. So I did try to learn Ermac a while ago. Man, those cancels were messing me up, though. The other characters, I'm not really a big fan of. I don't really care about Homelander. I'm not a big Geras fan, but anyway, I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, he's so brain dead, 50-50 mix, blah, 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 top tier. Even the pros, when Homelander first came out, the pro players that used him were making jokes and posting memes about how their hands were broken, their fingers were broken, that they have to grow a 6th finger, or on their hand, on each hand, to get his optimal combos down. They said his combos are some of the hardest combos to do in the game. The flight cancels and all that other stuff. Now, basic Homelander is brain dead, but a truly optimized Homelander, you have to learn this character to be good with him, if that makes sense. Like, you have to... If the pros are saying that his, combos are so hard to do because there's so many button pushes and, the flying and all that, then he's a hard character. Like... The pros are going to know more than you, like it or not. 100% they're going to know. Because they sit in training mode for hours. They train with other pro players for hours learning these things. And every pro player that plays Homelander says that his optimal combos are just ridiculous. Like, they had to... Like I said, they were joking around. Clearly, they're just joking, but... It comes from a place that's real. His combos are hard. They're joking, saying that you have to break your hand, that you're going to get arthritis, that they need to grow more fingers. So clearly, Homelander is harder to play. Like, honestly, sit and think about it. Look at, oh my gosh, what is his name? The Mighty Unjust Homelander. Were you seeing any random Homelanders on Combat League doing those combos? No. I've run into a lot of Homelanders because, they hear top tier, so they think, oh, I can pick him and just win with him easy. And majority of them were terrible, doing unsafe stuff, getting punished. They don't truly know how the flight works. And I never, not once personally, in a Combat League match, seen a optimal Homelander combo that, like, Mighty Injustice and stuff is doing. So clearly he's a lot harder than people want to say. Again, top tier does not mean easy. Low tier does not mean hard to play. Like, you guys need to get that through your heads. Because I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh my god, Homelander's so brain dead, blah, blah, blah. He's clearly not. Oops. Now, I got a couple of honorary picks I want to show you guys that I think are kind of hard to play. Noob Saibot. I've recently been learning him. He is a lot harder than people give him credit for. He has a lot of moves. He has a lot of aerial moves. So when you use a shadow clone move, it's gone, and then it turns into you doing that move or whatever. So you have to pay attention to your shadow clone. You see him at the bottom, underneath Noob Saibot, the shadowy figure. So you have to pay attention to that, because if you don't time it right, you might think, "Oh, my shadow clone's up," and you go to do that and you do this on accident, and it's unsafe and you get punished. So there's that you have to keep in mind. Some of his combos, I've learned a lot of characters in this game. I've done a lot of pretty hard combos in this game. Noob Saibots are probably some of the hardest that I personally have tried to learn. I have them down now. Ah, see, I dropped it. But another thing is Janet is not that easy to use. You have to... So you do this, and then go into Janet. You have to keep smashing R1 to get the multiple punches. And then get this out in time to land. You know, it takes some time. It's not like, you know, Liu Kang, where you just go in there, you do his back 2-3 launcher, back 2-3 launcher, 3-3-3 into the Dragon Fire. Noob Saibot's combos are a lot more effort. Especially when, like, people say Movato's brain dead. He is, kind of, but for some reason, Noob Saibot with Movato, I could not get the timing down. I had to... Let me show you an example. Oh, no, I can just... where is it? So this combo here... God damn it. You do that, and then jump, right? For the life of me, I couldn't figure it out. Until finally I realized... You have to call Movato at the last second to get this combo. Like, the timing is just kind of tricky. And then you have to add in a whole new thing with this. You crush the hand, and now your special moves do different things. You know, I think this, yep, into a portal. So then you have to learn that on top of the normal moves. And Noob Saibot used to optimize is a lot harder than people give him credit for sure, 100%. That's why, again, you don't see Noob Saibot online on Combat League that often. Mostly because most of the player base is casuals and they don't want to learn more than one character. But Noob Saibot is harder to learn than people give him credit for, 100%. I'm not just being biased. Like, you know, I put 2 of my mains in easiest characters to play. So I'm not being biased when I say Noob Saibot is pretty hard. Like, you know, he has a lot of moves, a lot of special moves, a lot of normals. You have to learn the moves for this. So yeah, I'm not optimized with Noob Saibot yet. Even with Janet, you know, some of those combos are kind of tricky. I'm not going to sit here and say it's like, you know, playing Street Fighter or anything like that, but he's pretty hard to learn. Another honorary one I wanted to go over. The reason why I didn't put this character on my list, and that character being Smoke, is because he is a pub stomper character. What does that mean, you might ask? He's very good at crushing new players that don't know really how to play the game, or people who don't take the time to practice, don't know the matchup, because he has pretty much, you know, 50-50s. This is plus on block and breaks armor, but it's a high, so you can just duck it in case anybody's watching this. I have a video up on my YouTube going over how to counter Smoke. But, that's an overhead low that can be canceled into. I know there's more. That's the move I just did. Oh yeah, that's a low, overhead. And then he has this, that's a low. He has an overhead teleport. So he has some mix-ups, right? That if you don't know the matchup, you're going to get destroyed. And so now you're thinking, oh, if he's so easy and has easy mix-up, why is he in honorable mentions? His smoke cancels. If you want to be a really good smoke player, you have to learn how to do his smoke cancels. Yeah, that. How do you even cancel that? Oh, okay. So you have to do that, and you have to do it in mid-string to keep it, unsafe. You have to mix it up, otherwise people will just jab punish you out of it. He's easy to pick up and play, hard to master because of the cancels. That's why he's in honorable mentions and not in the actual list. But like I said, if you want to be a really good smoke player, you got to learn these cancels. I mean, I know a lot of smoke players are carried because of the 50-50s going against people that don't know the matchup. But yeah, he's harder than people think. Now, one more honorable mention. She's an honorable mention and not in the main list because I know people are going to bitch about it. Sindel. Her fly cancels are going to give a lot of casual players trouble. You kind of have to learn them if you want to be a good Sindel player. Okay, so I lied. There's going to be two honorable mentions. Rain. You have to kind of learn his cancels to be really, really good with him. But his cancels aren't that hard. Sindel's isn't the hardest either. That's why I have a friend that plays Sindel, and we were messing around, and he was showing me. I probably can't do it now, but when I was messing around, I was doing her fly cancels. But yeah, so those are two honorable mentions. I feel like their learning curve is a little more ahead than the rest of the cast. But again, nobody in this game is like learning a hard Street Fighter character or a hard Tekken character. But there are some characters here that are harder to learn than others. Some people say Natara. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. When Farah first came out, there were so many Natara and Farah players. There's no chance she's that hard. No way. Everyone says Kenshi's top tier, but yet barely anybody ever uses him. So I don't want to hear nothing about Natara being hard. She's not hard. Also, in my last video, someone was saying, oh, you guys don't know old Havoc. So Havoc was my all-time favorite 3D era character, so I learned him when the game first came out. Just because he's low tier doesn't mean he was hard to play. Like, he was not... there. I want you to tell me, if you watch this video, what made Havoc, in your opinion, hard to play back then, other than being low tier? Because he had basically all the same moves. It's just they sped up some of the frames of some of them. They gave him a launcher with that low. But other than that, he's the same. He's the same. I don't understand what was ever that hard about playing Havoc other than him being low tier. Because like I said, I learned him. I used him a good amount before he got buffed. And there was nothing that was that hard. I mean, I guess some of his optimals were kind of tricky because there was no Movado to make him easy. But there was no version of Havoc that I would put in the top 5 hardest, if I'm being honest. Just because he's low tier doesn't mean he was hard to play. But yeah, that's my list, guys. Top 5 hardest was Geras was number 1, Kenshi 2, Shang Tsung 3, Ermac 4, and Homelander 5. Some of them controversial. If you disagree, let me know. And don't just say, oh, you're wrong, Kenshi's brain dead. Give me a reason why he's brain dead, other than he's top tier. But yeah, again, I really appreciate you guys showing up for the last video. It gives me, encouragement to do more. Like I said, I'm in the process of learning how to edit because I have a couple video ideas that I'm coming up with so I can give you guys more quality content instead of, Just me on here rambling. But I appreciate you guys. If you like this, give me a like and subscribe, and let me know if you guys agree or disagree or whatever. And I will see you all next time.